It's hard to believe a brutal daylight shooting had begun with a passionate romance. Tracey, a single mother of James, met Hunter Grissom in 2003 when she was 21. The couple settled in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and the couple started a construction business together. After a series of miscarriages, they had a baby girl, Anna Grace, born prematurely. It was a stressful time for the couple, and the honeymoon period was well and truly over. At the time, she was going through a divorce, but Hunter swept her off her feet and turned her life around. He was 2 years younger than Tracey, and when they eloped just a year later, many thought he was rushing into things, but the pair insisted they were smitten with each other. In the summer of 2010, 7 years after they first met, registered nurse Tracey filed for divorce after she accused Hunter of taking drugs. While Tracey claims he started to be violent towards her, she never reported it to the police, and there were no witnesses. Hunter's colleagues said Tracey would turn up at his work, accusing him of seeing someone new. On November 22, 2010, Hunter went to visit Tracey at her house. She was dating, but Hunter wasn't pleased with it. The next day, Tracey went to the hospital and claimed Hunter had raped her and thrown her against a bath, leaving her unconscious until the early hours. She took photos of her injuries. A head wound that needed a suture, which a doctor described as superficial. Lauren Richards has known Tracey Grissom since childhood. When asked about Tracey, she describes her as a strong and caring person who gives more than she takes. That's why Richards was shocked to get the phone call that Tracey had shot Hunter. Long before Hunter's death, while he and Tracey were still in the process of getting a divorce, Richards noticed minor injuries on Tracey's body. She says Tracey would act vague about the bumps and bruises and explain them away. It wasn't until Richards saw Grissom with a black eye that she seriously confronted her. "You may have terrible luck, but nobody is so unlucky that they trip down the stairs and hit their face on a baseball in the eye socket. So don't give me a lame excuse." "You don't have to give me an excuse, but let's take a picture." Short after, Hunter was arrested on charges of domestic violence. He told his lawyer he had consensual sex with Tracey after she'd called, begging him to take her back. He also saw her taking too many anti-anxiety tablets, making you lose balance, possibly explaining the head injury. However, phone records showed Tracey had been on her phone when she claimed she was unconscious, texting her friend and new boyfriend. The tension between the couple had now reached new heights. Tracey took out a restraining order and bought a handgun, while Hunter stopped paying for childcare, claiming he wasn't working. On the morning of May 15, 2012, Tracey was driving to a job interview when she stopped at the Binion Creek boat landing. She'd seen a sign for Grissom Construction, Hunter's company. She says she was taking a photo to prove Hunter was still earning, to take a photo for use in their divorce case. The plan was to get a picture and get out of there as quickly as possible. But she said Hunter looked at her with this mean, aggressive face. He flipped her a bird and started coming toward her vehicle. Grissom said she had not put her car in park before getting out, and was worried it would roll down the boat landing and into the water. At that point, she didn't have anywhere to go. She didn't know what else to do except to defend herself. When Tracey saw Hunter coming, she pulled out her gun and fired every one of the 6 bullets. 4 hit Hunter, 2 in the back, and he fell to the ground, face down. Then she called 911.
Your name is Tracey?
Yeah.
Okay, you killed your husband?
Ex-husband, yes.
Ex-husband. How did you kill him?
I shot him.
You have the gun?
I got the gun.
What kind of gun do you have?
I couldn't take it no more.
Okay, calm down. I want you to take some deep breaths. Where's the gun? Where's the gun?
Right beside me. Right beside me.
Tell me what happened.
I just pulled up. I saw him and I shot him.
Okay, you pulled up beside him?
He was looking at me all mean and I just shot him.
Now, what do you mean you can't take it anymore?
He used to beat me all the time. I hear him.
You hear them?
Yes. I see
See
him.
them?
I see
Okay.
him.
I need you to just put your hands up so they will know that you will not pick the gun up.
Okay.
Back to me! Walk back to me! Turn around! Put the phone down!
When police arrived, Hunter's colleagues said Hunter had seen Tracey and asked them to call the police, and he'd been running away when Tracey shot him. Hunter was dead, aged just 28. At the station, Tracey was questioned.
Tracey?
Yeah.
Been a while.
Tell me what happened that led up to this moment. What's going on?
November of 2010, he beat me unconscious and raped me and left me for dead. And I finally pressed charges against him, and he told me he'd make my life a living hell.
Right.
And that's what he's done.
What happened this morning that led up to you going?
I was going to work and I saw him,
Mm-hmm.
and he's been claiming that he's not working.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going in there to take a picture of him, because it was the truck that's still in my name, and the boat is still in my name, and the trailer is still in my name. He just stared at me and he flipped me off, and I just put there and shot you. I just shot you, and I shot you, and I shot you.
How many times did you shoot you?
Until it would shoot no more.
What happened after that?
I
After you
don't
shot?
remember.
You don't remember that? Did you throw the gun down? Did you sit down? What happened?
I sat back down at my car and called the police.
Okay.
I never thought I'd kill him. I always thought he'd kill me. I thought he'd kill me.
When Hunter's family heard someone had shot their son dead, they knew Tracey had done it. Hunter wasn't able to defend himself, and it could swing the jury. Tracey pleaded not guilty, claiming Hunter had been walking towards her in an aggressive manner when she shot him. The prosecution said Tracey wanted Hunter's £66,000 insurance payout. The day before she shot him, Tracey had called the life insurance company to check they had the right address. Is that a coincidence? She also called them a few weeks after the shooting, telling them Hunter was dead and she'd killed him in self-defense. A pathologist testified that Hunter was not coming at her when he was shot. He was running away. But the defense said it was possible that Hunter had been moving towards Tracey when she started shooting and had turned after the first shots were fired. When Tracey took the stand, she told the jury about the alleged rape, and said she lived in fear of her ex-husband. The defense doesn't deny Tracey Grissom killed the man. But her attorney, Warren Freeman, says the woman was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder after being beaten and sexually assaulted by Grissom. The man was awaiting trial on rape and other charges at the time of his killing. When you hear all of the evidence from the stand, when you hear all of the backstory, you will understand why she had to shoot him that day, Freeman said. I honestly believe you will find her not guilty. Freeman argued that Grissom wouldn't have killed her ex-husband for money because a contempt action in their divorce ordered Grissom to pay her $2,100 a month for the rest of her life. Killing the man for insurance money wouldn't have been worth it. Before the jury went to deliberate, The judge offered Tracey the chance to consider a charge of manslaughter, but she refused. 90 minutes later, the jury had a verdict: guilty. Tracey then broke down. A month later, she was back in court and sentenced to 25 years in prison. Today, Tracey still maintains her innocence from behind bars, but an appeal was refused. She will be eligible for parole in 2029. The law decided that cold-blooded Tracey had gone in broad daylight to the place where Hunter was working, and shot him in the back. Meanwhile, her friends stand by her and continue to campaign for domestic violence awareness.
Back in November 2010, Hunter Grissom came to the home of Tracey, his ex-wife. He raped her, sodomized her, and he beat her. He dragged her across the floor. He tied her legs, ankles with a belt, dragged her across the floor, children downstairs. He had a gun with him at the time, loaded. He loaded it in front of the children and went back upstairs with a loaded gun. Raped her, sodomized her, beat her till she was unconscious. She awoke from the unconsciousness, her hair matted with her own blood, her having been raped, having had all the torment and the torture that had just been inflicted on her. She gets back downstairs. She calls a friend. The friend calls the police. That's the first time that we, all of us, found out the torment that this lady had been going through for years. Because you see, it wasn't the first time that she'd been raped. It wasn't the first time she'd been beaten. This was multiple times. Years of spousal abuse that she had been inflicted, that had been inflicted on her. What I would like to say to anybody listening, if you're suffering from spousal abuse, don't put up with that. There are shelters in this state. There are places that will help you. If Tracey had done that, we wouldn't have had to have ended in this tragic situation that we have today. And this is an unfortunate and tragic conclusion to something that she's been having to put up with for years.
What do you say? How does that amount to the charge that she's facing?
The day that Tracey, I think it goes without saying, Tracey went there to take a picture. And when we end up showing you our case, and our case is still developing, but when you end up seeing the evidence, you'll find that the rape that took place a year and a half earlier and the previous rapes to that, and the beatings that took place previous to that, all of those things are factors in the event that took place on May the 15th.
The witness you called today just testified that he saw her shooting as Mr. Hunter turned his back, and she continued to shoot. How is that going to play out in your case of the rapes that happened 7 months prior?
Well, I haven't been raped. I've never been raped before. And I don't know the trauma that would go with that. I can only imagine what effect that would have on me if I were female and I were raped and I were beaten continuously as she had been.
Why didn't she shoot him dead?
Well, I don't know. That's something that we'll have to look at down the road. I don't have a comment on that.
Why did she feel the need to have a gun there in the first place?
He had threatened to kill her numerous times. Before the rape that was actually reported, Hunter Grissom had threatened to kill her. She felt she was compelled to have a gun. Her friends kept telling her, "You need to have a gun." For a long time, the reason she didn't turn him in for the abuse, for the beatings, and for the rapes is because he threatened to kill her. He told her he would kill her. He told her he would kill other people that were involved with her. This was particularly after the divorce.
Was your client that were representing him for those particular charges?
I'm sorry, what was
his attorneys that were representing him for those particular charges have said that he had no contact with her since the divorce up until that day when he was found.
I don't have any comment on that.
Are you is your plea not guilty by temporary insanity?
We haven't entered it yet, and you'll see it'll be public record when we do. Any other questions?
How do we spell your first and last name? We'll make sure.
It's W-A-R-E-N, and then Freeman, just like free man. Okay, thank y'all.